Good evening. Welcome to Bible Q&A this evening. Let me put this other screen up here so you have something else on your screen besides me. You may have seen in the title slide, the title for tonight's episode is a hashtag, hashtag if truth mattered. And I guess over this past year, it has become extremely apparent. I mean, nobody can deny how obviously biased everybody is over everything, not just politics, not just religion, not just any sports teams. What people are so biased in almost everything that it's almost a universal, total disregard for the truth. Not a truth, not my truth, not your truth, not this intersectional group's truth, not that intersectional group's truth, not this gender's truth or that gender's truth. No, just the truth. There's just no concept anymore, it seems like, of truth. And even the willingness to have open, honest discussion. That's why I'm kind of excited about some new features that I'll have to use here on Bible Q&A. I hope to make for a better, more engaging podcast. I hope to be able to have where you see the Bible screen now. I'm pointing the wrong direction. Over here, I can have another person there, and we can have a back and forth discussion. If there's anybody still willing to do that, it seems like now the mentality is more the less we shine light on something, the less we talk about it, the less we try to expose something about it, the better. Just let people believe what they want to believe. You believe what you want to believe. I'll believe what I want to believe, and we'll go on. We'll get along and go along. Let's agree to disagree, right? And that's been around a long time, and I think that's part of the reason we've gotten to the point we are now, where there's just no concept that one side of a discussion can represent objective truth. It can represent reality. And the other side of a discussion, the other side of an argument can be completely detached from reality. That is possible. But it's hard to even get people to acknowledge that much anymore. So what I wanted to do tonight, I want to start off with a couple of clips from a lesson I preached yesterday. And I'm monitoring the live chat. If you have any questions or comments or want to jump in here and guide the discussion for tonight with your questions or comments, the live chat is available to you. And the control room that I'm looking at here doesn't show me who's watching where. I just get a general number. So if you want to let me know you're here, post in the live chat, and then I'll know you're here. If you have a question or a comment, post that in there, and we'll discuss that. So if you have any questions about this clip I'm about to show you, just jump in the live chat and we will go from there. All right, here you go. It has really become more and more apparent, disturbingly so, how little regard people have for the truth. Where people are choosing. I mean, it's willful. It's not by accident. It's not because they are not having the truth presented to them, or it's not because they don't have the ability to learn what the truth is, to be able to discern the truth, it's because they don't want the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. Not only do they not care what the truth is, they don't want to know what the truth is. They have no desire for the truth. We'll see as we go through here how crucial that is to knowing the truth. One of the things that is essential for knowing the truth is that you have a desire to know the truth. And for those who really, honestly desire to know the truth, we can. And really, I would say in most areas of life, if we really want to know what the truth of the matter is, we can know. It's one of the things I've been talking about a good bit, is the ability to look at information from a critical viewpoint. That doesn't mean skeptical. It means just not taking it at face value, or not just taking somebody's word for it, but being critical. And if you do that, when you hear someone say something or you read something, you're able to pick out certain phrases or certain wording that shows a bias in what's being said. Right? The person is not just presenting this as the fact of the matter. They're presenting what they're claiming to be facts from a biased viewpoint. And that's dangerous, because it skews the truth at best and just flat out flips it over at worst. So it's important for us to have that love of the truth that Paul talks about to the Thessalonians, where he says that he sent strong delusions because they did not love the truth, or they didn't have the love of the truth. Well, without a love of the truth, you don't really care whether or not you're getting the truth. You don't have that desire to know the truth. But for those who do have the desire, we live in a remarkable time, don't we? Where, you see me walk up here every Sunday, every Wednesday, just about. You see me walk up here and lay that's my phone. You see me lay my phone down. Well, that's because it's not just, I'm not waiting on a phone call. It's not laying here because I'm waiting on a phone call. It's laying here because it's a computer. And I've got my notes on there, right? Everybody, we're all walking around with essentially a supercomputer in our pocket. And we can pull it out, and I don't want to say it because I know my phone will come to life, and maybe a lot of y'all's will too. But there's a catchphrase you can say that your phone will wake up, and it will wait for you to ask it a question. And you say the phrase and say, what's this such and such information I'm looking for? And it'll pull it up. And a lot of times it'll even read it off for you. Say, according to Wikipedia, it's blah, 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 blah. Right? So, what really is the excuse, or the reason that someone doesn't check to verify what it is they're being told, to verify what it is they're hearing? What is the reason that when a person hears something, they just take it as truth without any kind of verification at all? Well, it's because they don't really care. They're hearing something that they want to hear. It's what they want to hear, and they want that to be the truth, so they don't really care if it's actually the truth or not. It's sadly the way a lot of people handle the Bible. All right. You think about that, people not really comprehending I mean, it's not just that they have a philosophy or an ideology or a mindset or whatever about the truth that, truth is malleable or fungible, or like gender is fluid or whatever. It's not even really that. It's that they don't even have a concept, not even a concept of truth, or the fact that truth matters. That's why I've been using that hashtag, if truth mattered. If truth mattered, there would not have been nearly 40 million abortions this year. If truth mattered, then, people would want to know what is everything involved in what's happening. It's not just a procedure where you're getting a tooth pulled or something. No, another person is having their life taken. They're being executed as if receiving a capital punishment sentence. If truth mattered, then people would want to know that. They would want to reflect on that. But they don't have a concept of it. There even being something like the truth. No, it's more, well, how does it make me feel? I don't feel good because I did something wrong, and now, there's consequences from this, sinful action that I engaged in. So what do I do? Well, I get rid of the consequences. And that's basically what abortion is. It's somebody. If truth mattered, then people would understand it for what it is, and they would recognize it for what it is. It's committing murder to cover up my crime. That's basically what it is. And if truth mattered, then people would want to know that. But sadly, truth doesn't matter to the majority of people. And it's not even that they're making a conscious decision that, I don't care what the truth is, or I don't want the truth, or, whatever. It's not even that they're making a conscious thought there, a conscious decision to do something. It's just that they've never been taught at any point in their life, from birth to today. They've never been taught anything like the fact that there is objective truth, that the fact that there is a reality, and things are a certain way in that reality. They just have no concept of that. And so, it's very concerning. It's very concerning that people are so oblivious to their decisions and their choices. It makes you wonder how much longer things can continue that way. Think about that. 40 million, almost. By the end of the year, it'll be past 40 million. 40 million innocent people murdered to cover up somebody else's guilt. That's astounding that people would tolerate that. People would just sit back and watch the numbers keep climbing. But, everybody's attention span is right here. If it's not right next to me, if it's not in the same room with me, if it doesn't affect my day-to-day life, then, don't bother me with that stuff. Don't bother me with that stuff. uh, don't bother me with, making any actual informed decisions based on actual information. Don't bother me with that. So, I mean, and that's where we are. That's basically where we are, um, in today's world. It's not just American culture. It's worldwide, and it's really something. So anyway, I've been, thinking a lot about that the past. It's been, a pretty good while that's kind of been something that is at the forefront of my attention, I guess. What can how can I get it across to, especially young people? I was going through, this is not a good thing to do right now for sure. Or, it's not really something to pay attention to hardly ever. But I saw a post on social media, which I've started calling socialist media, because, when they can decide what information you're allowed to have and not allowed to have, that's socialism. So it's not social media anymore. It's socialism media. There is a new platform that has come up, called Parlor. Let me see if I can get you Parlor's. Oh, that's easy. So it's just parlor.com. And when you get over there, if you search for Preacher Norm, that's me on Parlor. Where did it go? I thought I just displayed it. Oh, there it is. It's parlor.com. And if you search for @PreacherNorm on Parlor, you'll find me and be able to connect with me there. It's basically like Twitter. But let me move that over here. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to move. Well, I don't guess I can. All right. It's basically like Twitter, maybe a little more functional than Twitter, actually. That they're just upfront pitch, I guess, is that they're not going to censor unless it's something that's illegal. They're not going to censor people like Twitter and Facebook and other places do. And I don't know. I don't know how many times YouTube has. I wish there was a good alternative to YouTube. Parlor, and there's Minds, and there's some others that are attempts at replacing Twitter or an alternative to Twitter, which is very extremely biased against any kind of religious or conservative leanings. Well, when I say religious, I should say, quote, Christendom or Christianity in the broad sense of that, right? I don't mean that they specifically target the New Testament church. I mean, just anybody that claims Christianity, not actual Christianity, but just anybody that claims Christianity. They're very biased against those kinds of posts, and any kind of right-leaning social things. They're very, very biased against them. So people are leaving Twitter and leaving Facebook, and one of the, I guess, close to being a real alternative to them is Parlor. There's not any other social media platforms that are anywhere close to what Facebook can do, and I think Parlor's getting, if not right with Twitter. I guess the only thing that Twitter can do that Parlor hasn't started doing yet is, if I wanted to live stream on Twitter, I could. That's not the case with Parlor. You can upload short videos, but they don't support live streaming yet. I don't stream to Twitter because I am fairly certain, based on what I've seen, analytic patterns and things. I believe that my posts on Twitter are what they call shadow ban, where they don't come out and tell you that they're banning you or that you're off the platform or whatever, and you just keep posting, but nobody sees your post. Nobody sees your posts. Way once in a while, somebody will reply to something to let me know that they saw something on Twitter, but hardly ever. So, I think based on the interactions and things, I think my posts I don't think anybody sees them. And to some degree, I think Facebook kind of does the same thing. I know another preacher that he got kicked off of Facebook or put on parole. How is it that these companies are able to put you on parole or to suspend, or and it's almost like penal language, right? Like we're in prison, right? And Facebook and Twitter can say, okay, you're in timeout. We're your parents, and we're putting you in timeout, or suspending, like, I'm the principal and you're suspended, right? Why do they think that that's okay? They're supposed to be like the telephone, right? Where if I'm talking to you on the phone and I'm saying something bad, that somebody listening in from the phone company could say, "Oh, this is a unauthorized conversation," or however you want to. This is a illegal conversation or whatever. So, say I was talking to somebody about something illegal, and somebody from the phone company was saying, "Okay, well, y'all are talking about illegal stuff, so we're cutting off your phone service." Well, yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's not legal, right? And so Facebook and Twitter and other social media platforms, they like to say that they're like the phone company, but the phone company doesn't cut off your conversations when you're talking to somebody about something they don't like. So they're not like the phone company. They're like a magazine or a bulletin board. And if that's how they're going to function, then they have to they have to be accountable for everything on their site, everything, post, comments, everything. If they're going to function like, say, a newspaper, where a newspaper has editors, right? There's an editor-in-chief and there's editors that work under him that decide what goes in the newspaper, right? Reporters send in their articles to the editors read them and they say, well, take this part out and take this part out. And maybe, say this a different way. That language isn't, they edit. That's what they're editors. That's what they do. And they decide what goes in the paper. Okay. Well, if the Atlanta Journal and Constitution prints something that is false because they have editors, because they decide what goes in the paper, if they publish something in the paper that is false, not just false, I mean, they publish false stuff all the time, but something that is actually, damaging to another person, then they can be sued for that. It's called libel. They can be sued for that. I don't remember, is libel written and slander verbal, or is it? I think that's right, but I may have them reversed. I think that's right. I think libel is written and slander is verbal. So if somebody says something in a verbally in a from a platform that influences people, that is damaging to another person, they can be sued for that personally. And I would imagine whoever put them on that platform, right? For example, say Fox News. Say, Fox News says, or say me, if I'm on this podcast and I say something on this podcast that is damaging to someone, I say blah, 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 and it is potentially very damaging to the person. And then, that starts getting shared around. It goes viral. 2 million people have seen the video. And what I said was false. What I said was, or what I said I got by illegal means. Well, then I could be sued for slander, right? That's verbal. Or if it's in a written form, I could be sued for libel if I have those two right. Okay, well, if that's how Facebook and Twitter want to function, if they want to say, okay, if you post a sermon that says, like the sermon I preached yesterday, if you post a sermon that denies gender fluidity, that says that there's only two genders, gender is binary, it's male and female, that's it, nothing else, male and female. This whole idea that gender is fluid is it's really one of the primary evidences of how far we've gone away from truth mattering, right? If truth mattered, right? Hashtag that. This is how I've been using the hashtag. When I post something, I'll say, if truth mattered, then people would not believe that there's 80 different genders. 80 different genders. Can you, I even heard one person say that she couldn't put a number on how many genders there are because it's fluid. It's, when you put a number on it, well, then the number's different because, it's fluid. Now, see that they can say that. They can say that gender is fluid out of the same mouth that they say you're born with your sexual preference. You're born with your sexual proclivities. Okay, well, suppose a gay man, homosexual, by definition, meaning he's attracted to the opposite gender, or he's attracted to the same gender, rather. He's attracted to people of the same gender, right? He's homosexual. Suppose that guy goes through the hormone therapy and the surgeries and everything, and when it's all done, you can't tell the difference unless you do a DNA test. It's always, if you take somebody that is transgender, if you take that person and do a DNA test on them, and you have that DNA examined without any other information about the individual being tested, they will say that is a male. That is a male. They won't say that's a female just because he went through the surgery and he had the hormone therapy, and no doctor, no DNA geneticist, none of them are going to look at the results from that DNA test without the person in the room with it. Because if the person's in the room, they're going to say, oh yeah, female. Yeah. Right. Just like the Psychological Association just overnight decided that homosexuality wasn't a mental disorder after, for I don't know how many years, a long time, published in their books that homosexuality is a mental disorder, that it is it's a mental, that's what I said, a mental disorder, right? That's what they classified homosexuality, as a mental disorder up until I think like the late 80s, maybe mid 80s. And then all of a sudden just flipped, just like that, just flipped to then saying, no, it's not a mental disorder. It's normal. Well, based on what research, based on what, what information did you examine to come to that conclusion? Well, there's not any. It's just the public perception of homosexuality changed because of a concerted effort from that community in entertainment, in media, every form of media. It became, more normalized in society. And so people didn't see it as an abnormality anymore. And so they said, well, okay, it's not a disorder anymore, right? Well, that's not medical. It's not scientific. It's not data driven. It's just feelings. It's just nothing. It's just, okay, well, today I don't like it. Today I do like it. Well, what about tomorrow? Whoever's in power doesn't like it. And they don't like it so much that they make it a crime, like it is in some countries, where they throw you off the roof if you're accused of being homosexual. So it has to be based on something other than just how I feel about it, right? Well, it is. It's based on the truth, objective truth. And if truth mattered, these things wouldn't exist. These things would not exist, right? Let's look at some comments. Hello, Richard. Good to see you watching tonight. I'm using this feature to post the comments on the screen. So I appreciate you watching, Richard. What? Yeah, I clicked on the wrong one. Hello, Richard. Hello, Gwendolyn. Good to see you this evening. Gwendolyn says, I would like to know if you could explain the parable of the sower and if that somewhat applies to your sermon. Thanks. I didn't use the parable of the sower. Okay, I showed it. Now how do I take it off? Oh, there it is. Okay. I didn't use it in my sermon yesterday, but I suppose that there would be some application of it to that. And we know the parable of the sowers, or the parable of the, I like the heading in the New King James Bible, the parable of the soils, because that's actually, what he's talking about. I'm just curious as to what specific point from the parable of the sower there's that. Well, unless you say that this is the wayside soil. I mean, this is definitely an example of the wayside soil. That Satan has packed that soil. And when I say Satan, I mean the public school system from kindergarten up. I mean the university system, all through their entire educational life, in the entirety of it. Doesn't matter how far they go in school. They can get out of high school and go to trade school for a couple of years, or just not even get out of high school, whatever. The entirety of their time in the educational system, the public educational system, the entirety of it is 100% indoctrination in denying the truth, in rejecting the truth, that you don't need the truth. You just need what we tell you. So my wife tutors math. And sometimes she looks at the stuff that's being used in the public schools with this Common Core math stuff. And, she'll just ask me a math problem, right? And I'll, say, well, it's this or that. She'll say, right. Okay, so now why does this question want to know just the most ridiculous stuff? She asked me one the other day. It was so irrational. I wasn't even able to retain it in my mind. It was like, what is the opposite of, this process or what, I forget what it was, but it's like, well, this is how you get the right answer. So you want an example of how not to get the right answer? I think that was what it said. I think if I remember right, that's basically what it said. Now give an example of how to get a wrong answer or something, something just all crazy like that. And so what does that do in these kids that they're studying this stuff and saying, okay, well, this is the right answer, but is it really? Even in math, is it really the right answer? Do you really know? Right? It's crazy. Well, the whole time they've been educated in the public school system, that's been the molding, the process of it, of people who just have no concept of truth at all. I mean, the very idea that there could be something that is objectionably true, doesn't matter how you feel about it, doesn't matter who says what about it, doesn't matter what, it looks like, or this is the truth. Period. No ifs, ands, ors, or buts. This is it. This is the truth. People have no concept that that's even possible, that it's even possible to do that. I mean, how many of our own preachers, how many of our own people who were just, really respected teachers, really respected preachers, and then the next thing you know, they're saying the exact opposite of what they preached, just a couple years before. And people see that and they say, well, is anything, I mean, can you really say that anything is true? And so, yeah, that's Satan hard packing that wayside soil. And nothing's going to get through it. That's what Jesus said there. The seed can't get through it, can't get into it. The birds come and eat it, right? Man, do we have birds flying around just waiting to eat any seed of truth that comes into our surrounding. Unless we have a ready heart, ready to receive the truth, we love the truth, we want the truth. As the Proverbs writer said, we want to buy the truth and sell it not. Those birds are just waiting to eat the seed before it even really hits the ground, and that's kind of what we're dealing with. So yeah, I mean, I would say there's some application there. It's not a passage that I used in the lesson, but there's definitely application there. All right. Eric Embry says, amen. I suppose all of mankind has a besetting sin. I suppose a person who is attracted to the same sex would say, it didn't put your whole comment up there, would say they didn't choose to be. I'd say, sure, fine, okay, but you do choose to act on it. That's the line of demarcation between good and evil, a choice we make, God's way or mine. Okay, I see what you're saying. So even if you give them the argument that they were born that way, right? And that's kind of the talking point about homosexuality, that they're born that way, right? And I know our typical response to that is to say, well, you were created by God, created in the image of God. And so God's not going to create a person that is predisposed to sin. God doesn't do that, right? James chapter 1 makes that pretty clear. God doesn't do that. So if you're born that way, it must be okay. Well, then we got the problem with, the word being pretty clear that it's not okay. It's an abomination. It's a sin. God destroyed cities because of homosexuality, right? There's no way you can reconcile it with the Bible. No way. Romans chapter 1 makes it pretty clear. You can't reconcile it with the Bible. So, if you're born that way, then it's not really your fault. So they say, well, I didn't choose it. Okay, well, yeah, you could say that about a lot of things, couldn't you? You come up with whatever. An alcoholic could say, I didn't choose to be an alcoholic. But it's a fact that people differ in whether or not they get addicted to things, right? It's not just universal, right? You give two people the same addictive substance, one will have a stronger addictive reaction to it than the other, right? So that person is said to have an addictive personality, right? They're predisposed to addiction. That's one of the things I've heard about, children of alcoholics or drug abusers, that they're either going to also be an addict, or they're going to be totally abstinent, right? There's no in between for them, right? Because they already have that proclivity toward addiction. Okay, so what do you? I mean, if a person says, "Well, I was, born this way," which I think that there's a lot more evidence. I'm still dubious over the idea that you're born with certain proclivities. I think it has to do with your environment and what molds your thinking and your personality. And in those formative years, I think that there's things that develop that are the basis for why we choose the things we do, why we have the proclivities we do. Okay, but even if I give you that you're born that way, okay, well, does that mean I'm supposed to say it's okay to, be addicted to things? That it's okay to be an alcoholic or a drug addict because you're born with that proclivity to be addicted to things? Well, no, of course not. You'd say, yeah, it may be harder for you than for me. And this kind of goes to the whole thing about, equality, meaning everybody has to have, everybody has to be equal across everything. So how dare you say that something is harder for me than it is for you, right? And then out of the same mouth, like I said a minute ago, talk about, certain people being privileged over other people. Well, isn't that what you're saying? That there's things that are harder for you than for me, right? Which is not even true. But that is what you're saying. And then turn right around and say, how dare you say that one person has more ability than the other person, right? Everything out of that whole ideology is just contradictory, continually contradictory. Okay, so even if I give you that you're born with that proclivity, that doesn't mean it's okay to give into that proclivity. If it's harmful, if it's against nature, if it's not the way God created things to work, then whether you have a proclivity for it or not doesn't mean it's okay. Doesn't mean, okay, well then, if you have a proclivity for that, then run with it, go for it. And people will be dropping in the streets all over the place. If we're just supposed to run with whatever your proclivities are, we would all kill ourselves, right? With whatever our chosen proclivity is. So just because somebody has certain proclivities doesn't make it okay. So that argument for homosexuality, doesn't work. Gwendolyn says, I'm sick about the abortion policies. I do not support any party or groups that support it. That is my main issue. That is my main issue. If both candidates came out, really, and I would have to say it would need to be more than just that candidate. It would have to be a party policy, right? A platform of the party. The different points they call platforms, right? It would have to be a platform of the party. But, say, for example, both parties that we have to choose from, essentially. I know there's third parties. They're not really a viable choice. I don't think now, maybe if things were like they ought to be, maybe then a third party would be a viable option. But right now, third party is not really a viable option because the two major parties are so diametrically opposed to each other that to not participate one way or the other is to support the opposite, right? So the platforms on the right, and I can say right and left because that's what it is. The platform on the right is good, basically, right? Fundamentally, it's good. Supports, support for human life. Doesn't believe that abortion should be a thing, right? Now, sometimes they give in, they give concession for the what they call the exceptions of rape and incest, or health of the mother. See, and that's really, that's an example. Okay, give them, okay, rape. Well, you wouldn't force a woman that had been raped to have that child, would you? And that goes to feelings, right? Doesn't matter what the facts are. The baby isn't the one that committed the rape. The rapist did. And so the rapist should die, not the baby, right? But that doesn't even, come into the discussion because, it's all about feelings. Poor woman that had this horrible thing happen to her. And now you're going to force her to have that child. It's an emotional pitch. Okay, so they give in. They give that concession because they know it's a losing argument to fight against it. Okay, because most people don't think, they just react. Most people don't think, they just, whatever they're feeling at the moment, that's what they base their decision on, right? So it's a losing argument. People hear that, it makes them feel bad. They say, well, no, of course not. They're not thinking, well, by saying no, of course not, you're talking now about the baby having to pay the death penalty that the rapist should be facing. So you're killing one person because of another person's crime, right? Well, they don't think about that. They just think about the emotional response to the argument being presented, right? So if people don't think critically, then these kind of things happen. Okay, so they give into that, and then they say, well, incest is worse than rape if you can say one thing's worse than the other, right? It's at least just as bad as rape. So you're not going to make that woman have that baby, are you? Really? Okay, same thing, give in. So now here comes the next one. Well, what if carrying the baby to term is a danger to the life of the mother, is a danger to her health? And they don't even say life of the mother. They say, the mother's health. What if the pregnancy itself is harming the mother. You're not going to, put her life in jeopardy, are you? To not allow her to get an abortion and possibly die herself. Okay, now if truth mattered, hashtag if truth mattered, then a person would say, well, you don't kill one person, don't kill someone to an innocent person, okay? Because, I mean, there are situations where you would kill one person to save another person, but not if they're both innocent, right? Not if it's two innocent people. That's under consideration. You wouldn't say, okay, here's these two people. You can only pick one, the other one dies. Well, no, that's not an actual choice that I'm okay with making, right? I mean, why would one of them have to die? Well, just suppose that one of them has to die. Okay, now which one do you pick? Well, if truth mattered, okay, if truth is what mattered and not emotional reaction, if truth is what mattered, then I would have to say that the more innocent of the two, okay, you say both of them are innocent, neither one of them actually, committed a crime, and let's make it the best possible situation all around. It's a young lady in her mid-20s, married to her, the love of her life, good income, healthy, the picture of who should be bringing children into the world. And yet something's wrong. And if we can save the baby, but the mother's going to die. Or we can save the mother, but the baby's going to die. Now, I'm not saying that's an impossible choice, that's an impossibility. It has happened that choice had to be made. It's extremely rare, especially today with our, modern medicine. It's extremely rare. But if truth mattered, then I would have to answer that question by saying, okay, which one is they're both innocent. Which one is the most innocent? Is it something about the baby's body that is causing the problem? I mean, does the doctor need to do some surgery on the baby's body that might be able to alleviate this problem? Or is it some factor with the mother's body? Deal with the body that is, for lack of a better term, the problem in this situation. Deal with that body. Leave the other body alone. That's what I would have to say, right? But both are innocent. So which one is the more innocent of the two? Which one is the one in this situation that is not contributing to the problem? Save that one. Now that's just purely facts, logic, reason, with no emotion involved at all. That's what the truth of the matter is. What the reality of the situation is, right? But that's not how people make decisions. It's not how people think. It's not how people or I should say, don't think, right? Because in our current environment, emotion is the only thing that matters. How does it make me feel? Even to the degree that me saying something that makes you uncomfortable or hurts your feelings, makes you sad, just me saying that can get me kicked off of social media. I've lost features on YouTube. YouTube has taken features away from me because they don't like my content. People flag. I don't use bad language. I don't tell bad stories, or there's nothing there's nothing vulgar about anything I do on this podcast. So what it's just conversation. It's just discussion. So why would someone feel so hurt by it, so offended or damaged, or whatever, that rather than responding? Now, I'll tell you, when somebody says something to me that is inflammatory, that bothers me, it's possible. I want to engage that person in discussion. I want to say, why did you say that? What was it you were hoping to accomplish by saying that, thing, whatever you said? What was your intent in doing that? And I want to discuss it and resolve, whatever issue is there. But people don't want to do that. People would rather flag you to YouTube or flag you to Facebook to try to get you kicked off of those social media platforms because they don't like what you're saying. Well, if you don't like it, nobody's forcing you. Nobody's forcing you to watch. Nobody's forcing you to watch things that bother you. But really, if it bothers you, then why wouldn't that make you want to investigate and to see why it bothers you? Why is it that this thing bothers me like it does? Because that's the only way that people can be unified. That's the only possibility of unity, right? Is if people are willing to discuss things in such a way that they understand each other and they get to the bottom of whatever issues that are there, right? That's what people do when truth matters to them. But if it's just, well, that made me feel bad, and so now I don't want to talk to you anymore, and I'm going to try to get you kicked off of your social media platforms. I've known preachers that have lost their access to their social media platforms from stating religious views. That's bad. When people care so little for truth that they would rather have another person silenced, take away their ability to speak, instead of engaging in honest discussion with them. And that's where we are. All right, let's go back to the comments. I think I probably got pretty far off of the discussion on the comment. Let's see. Eric, we talked about that. That was Gwendolyn's. Hello, David. David says the public school system just makes socialists and evolutionists of kids, despite going to church. This thing truncates the comment, so I need to be sure I'm looking in the right place. Just make socialists and evolutionists of kids, despite going to church, because they have them 5 days a week. You know what, David? I understand your point there very much. I agree very much with your comment there. That the reason we're seeing our society go the way it's going is because instead of us instilling our values in our children, we have turned that responsibility over to other people who don't know you, don't care about you, don't care what you want. You got social workers in some counties that if the public school makes a recommendation for your child, for you to, this is what you need to do for little Johnny, and you say, yeah, I'm not doing that. Go on, go back to your closet. Leave my kid alone. You got social workers that'll show up and take them away from you because the state knows better than you how to raise your kids. And we have gone along with it. We've gone along with it. I was really glad when we moved here to LaGrange that there is a large active homeschool association here, and we were able to get involved with that homeschool association, and my daughter has really enjoyed that, and it's good. It's good, and the values that are being passed on are the values of those families, not the government. You turn your kids over to the government. So yeah, that's a plug for homeschooling. It's my podcast. I like homeschooling. So yeah, I'm plugging homeschooling, right? We turn our kids over to the public school system where government employees teach them the government line from sun up to sundown. And the only exception I would take to your comment, David, is that you say 5 days a week. It's more than that. It's more than that, because what are they doing when they're at home? What are they doing when they're home from school? Well, it's not enough that they're in school. It's not 5 hours a day. It's like 8 hours a day, isn't it? I think the school day is more like 8 hours. Unless, it's been a long, my child's never been on the public school schedule. So it may have changed. So I don't know, but what are they doing when they're at home? It's not enough that they have them all that time there under their direct control, but then they send them home with stuff to, keep them in their indoctrination for hours at home. So by the time the school day's done, the dinner's done, the homework's done, it's time for everybody to go to bed, good night. And then you don't see each other again until the next afternoon. Or maybe if you all get up at the same time, you see each other for a little while in the morning before everybody goes off, school, jobs, right? Then you come back the next day, you have, maybe 2-3 hours together again after the schools had them for 10 or 12. And then when they do have free time at home, they're on social media, they're on the TV, on the computer. They're not having conversations with the family. So how in the world could we expect to pass on our values to our children if we're spending with them at best, 2-3 hours a day? How does that, that's not going to work. It doesn't work. Obviously, It doesn't work. That's why there's so many parents right now in complete shock and disarray over what their kids are doing. I saw one today. Post, a parent makes a post about freedom. The kid comes back, doesn't live at home anymore, is off somewhere else, right? The kid comes back, posts on there, yeah, only white men had freedom. Nobody else had freedom or has freedom. I mean, she was talking about in the present tense, has freedom. That is not the truth. That is not according to truth. People that have been indoctrinated with that view, white supremacy, white privilege, the everything is centered on white males. It's just not the truth. It hasn't been the truth for a very long time. So, that's kind of what we're dealing with. But yeah, I agree with your point there, David, that we turn our kids over to the public school system. When I say we, I don't mean me, right? I've been pretty vocal about the fact that I'm a homeschooler, or I'm not a homeschooler. My wife and daughter are homeschoolers. I try to contribute when I can. But yes, I agree with your point there. Gwendolyn says, did you hear about the law that was passed to start teaching human sexuality in to kindergarten children? Kindergarten children. Yes, Gwendolyn, I have heard that. It's not just that I've heard that it's something that was going to happen. I'd have to look it up to see, where it's actually being done. But there's some places that have sex ed type. When I was in high school, and I did go to public school. That's what's wrong with me, right? I did go to public school. So I remember in high school there was a sex ed class, and that was back when I was in high school. I remember years ago. Right. That's back when I was in high school, and there was this, sex ed class where they were talking about, safe sex. You think they were allowed to teach abstinence? The only safe sex is married sex, right? You think they were allowed to teach that? No. That was back when I was in high school. Now it's so much worse than that. You may be a boy, but you don't feel like a boy. Maybe you feel more like a girl. Well, it's okay for you to, feel like that and to express that. Maybe you're a girl, or if you're a girl, but you feel more like a boy, and well, that's okay. Maybe you're a boy and you can be a boy, right? That's sex ed now. Right. It's not about, male and female being together. It's about the 80 gender fluidity mishmash. And yeah, it's already taken place. I last time I heard about it was probably a couple of months ago. But from what I understood, it was, parents, if I remember right, the story that I heard of that, and like I said, I'd have to look it up. It was, parents that were upset over their children being taught this. And why? When these COVID restrictions started, this is something I don't understand how people didn't have more concern over this. That when the coronavirus shutdowns, started, and they were doing virtual school. Places are still doing virtual school. Still now, right? In where I live, it's they give them the choice. You can come to the classroom, or you can do virtual. Right? They're giving them the choice. Well, in Tennessee, when they were starting to do the virtual school and kids, going to the Zoom classrooms, they wanted the parents, and I don't know if it was the state education board. I'm sure it was the teachers union, but I'm not sure if it was the state education board that was pushing it for the whole state, or if it was a county, school board that was pushing it for that county, but wanted the parents to sign a statement saying that they would not eavesdrop on their children's classes. And they were talking about, well, children are going to be afraid to ask us things because they're afraid their parents will hear them and this and that. Okay, what are they talking about in the classrooms that they would be concerned about the parents hearing? And why is it that they are promoting a setting where kids are encouraged to talk to someone other than their parents about potentially sensitive stuff? I want my kid to talk to me about, whatever issues might be going on. I don't want them to, go to someone else, a social worker. That's basically what public school teachers are, is social workers. You see their curriculum to get their degree in education. It's not a lot of, history and math and science, and because that's what they're going to be teaching. I mean, it's there, but that's not really the focus. The focus is more on like social work type stuff. So they're a bunch of social workers. Well, I don't want my kid going to talk to a social worker about some potentially sensitive issue. I want her to come talk to me or her mother. Or her mother, right? So, what is it that they're talking about with our kids that they don't want us hearing, that they don't want us involved in, right? So that they want the parents to sign a statement saying that they will not eavesdrop on their children's classes, on their Zoom classroom sessions. They won't eavesdrop on that. Well, get out of my house. Why would they think that that's okay? Why would they think that they have more right to my child than I do? Well, that's what happens when the values that have been indoctrinated into, at this point, generations. My generation, the generation before me, at least 3 generations, if not more, that this has been the indoctrination process. And so now we're just, further down the line. And so, yeah, it's worse, and we see it, and it's getting really obvious, and it's, scary looking what it's producing. Right. And I know people are going to post, things like, well, God's in control, and, we're ultimately going to be, everything's going to be fine. And, I know that. I understand that. Right. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be concerned about the way we see things go and want to try to do something to, at the very least, slow it down. Right. So, yes, Gwendolyn, I have heard about that. God makes man upright. We make choices. Right. The information about how to be upright or righteous is in the gospel. Right. That's what Paul said. For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first, and also for the Greek. For in it, that is in the gospel. Hey, look at that. You can see the pop-up windows now. In it, that's in the gospel. So for in it, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith. As it is written, the just shall live by faith. So in it, in the gospel, is revealed the righteousness of God. So if we want to be upright, if we want to be, righteous people, then it has to be by living according to the gospel. That's the only way. In it is revealed the righteousness of God. And that's what Paul means there. That's why he wasn't ashamed of it, right? He would go and preach the gospel anytime, anywhere, regardless of any threat of persecution, because he understood that the only way to be a righteous person was to live according to the gospel. And so that's right, Gwendolyn. The choice is ours as to whether or not we will seek to be upright people of God. And that has to be through obedience to the gospel, by hearing the word of God. Romans 10:17, believing what it teaches about Christ and his kingdom. Acts chapter 8 and verse 12, believing that, repenting of our sins. Acts chapter 17, verses 30 and 31, repenting of our sins, confessing that we believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Romans chapter 10, verses 9 and 10, making that confession with mouth unto salvation, being baptized into Christ to have our sins washed away by his blood. And then coming up from the watery grave of baptism in newness of life, Romans chapter 6, verses 3 and 4, to continue in the faith, grounded and steadfast and not moved away from the hope of the gospel that was preached to us. Colossians 1:23. We begin to live according to the righteousness of God revealed in the gospel. That's the only way to be an upright person, the only way. And God gave us the ability to choose that. The choice in the matter is ours. God presents the information. That's why, again, we're in such a dangerous situation right now where truth does not matter to anyone at all. And it's not just political. I mean, I know people watch this and they think I'm on a political rant. Well, you know, politics is involved. Yeah. But where does this not apply? Where does this not apply? It definitely applies to religion, where everything is about emotion, right? You know, just feel good in your sin, Joel Osteen type gospel, right? Paul said, if it's anything other than what was revealed to you, it's anathema. It's not another gospel. Galatians chapter 1, verses 6 to 9. And it's all based in emotion. That's why over the past, 10 years, probably, maybe more than 10 years, maybe, 15 years. I'll just say 15 years because it's been, it's been trending that way for quite a while. So say, over the past 15 years, I've been preaching for a little over 20 years. Okay. So over the past 15 years, I would say I have very definitely seen a pretty strong trend in the Baptist church toward a charismatic type religion. Getting caught up in the spirit and, doing the hoopla and really making a big show, right? Has been trending that way for, a good while now. Well, why? Because everything is based on emotion. We want to make you feel something. Well, is there emotional response to the gospel? Is there an emotional response? Let me say, I said, it's something that's dangerous in religion. It's something that's dangerous in politics. It's something that's dangerous in society. It's dangerous in the family. It's dangerous in the workplace. Wherever it is, it's dangerous. This kind of just emotional response type decision making. It's dangerous. We see things trending that way in every realm. It's not just religion; it's everywhere. So this isn't just a political rant. It's how concerning it is that people don't care about truth in anywhere. If you can create a narrative that produces a strong enough emotional response, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. People will respond to it. People will act on it. People will base their decisions on it. when the way it's supposed to work, the way that we're designed to function, is that we take in the information. That's why we have 5 senses, right? 5 senses. Because we're designed in a way to take in information, right? And we do it by hearing, by seeing, by smelling, by tasting, by feeling, touching, right? That's our 5 senses. That's the input to our brain. That's how we're designed to function. We take in information and we process that information. We file it away for decision making, or we harmonize it with other things that we know for, again, for decision making. It's how we function. It's how we decide how to live. It's how we, function from day to day, is based on the information we take in. The information comes first, and then the response to the information. So yes, you see all through the Bible that there is emotional response to the gospel. Probably one of my favorites is the Ethiopian eunuch. And why did it go to Acts 28? Acts 8. When Philip said, if you believe with all your heart, you may. And he answered and said, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. How was he able to say that? How was he able to say, I believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God? Well, we need to back up. I'll just start with verse 34. So the eunuch answered Philip and said, I ask you, of whom does the prophet say this? Of himself or of some other man? Then Philip opened his mouth and, beginning at this scripture, preached Jesus to him. Now, as they went down the road, they came to some water, and the eunuch said, see, here is water. What hinders me from being baptized? Then Philip said, if you believe with all your heart, you may. And he answered and said, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. See, he had the information. Philip preached Jesus to him. So Philip had imparted the facts of the gospel to the Ethiopian eunuch. So the Ethiopian eunuch made a decision. As Gwendolyn said, he made a choice. He said, see, here is water. What does hinder me to be baptized? He made the confession with the mouth unto salvation. I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And it says in verse 38, so he commanded the chariot to stand still, and both Philip and the eunuch went down into the water, and he baptized him. Did the eunuch have an emotional response to the information? Yeah, it says in verse 39, now when they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord caught Philip away, so that the eunuch saw him no more, and he went on his way rejoicing. The eunuch went on his way rejoicing. So where is the emotion in that passage, in that narrative, we'll say? Where's the emotion? Does the emotion come before the information? And then, the person is responding to emotion rather than the information? Because if the emotion, comes first, well, then the information is different, right? It's decision-making from the emotional response, not from the information. So the information comes after, which would make the information different. Well, no, the information comes first, then the response to the information, then the emotional reaction from the response. That's the natural order of things. So when emotion gets put first, things are out of whack. I've been saying that about the Pentecostal church for years, that the whole thrust of the Pentecostal church is emotionalism. Right? You get people hyped up, excited, jumping up and down, bouncing, shaking, quivering, having these emotional overloads. so that they have these, what they think are religious experiences. No, it's from it's from a sensory overload. Your brain is flipping out because you're pumping too much input to your brain, emotional input, not informational input, emotional input. And you can't process it. So you flip. People start, babbling or seeing things. And same thing happens when you have sensory deprivation, right? You take all the sensory input away. Well, your brain just starts making stuff up, and, it can be kind of wild stuff, right? Well, you have the same, you respond the same way to no sensory input as you do to too much sensory input, right? You react the same way. You have, what people believe are religious experiences. Well, it's not a religious experience. You have messed up the natural order of the way you're designed to work, the way God created you to function. You have short-circuited it. That didn't sound right. You've caused a short circuit in there. And so you have these out of body experiences, we might say. Well, that's not the way we're designed to function. We're designed to function by the sensory input, processing that, thinking about it, right? That's why we're thinking beings. We're created in God's image. No other living creature can take in information and process the information for decision making. No other creature can do that. Now, you can train animals to do certain things, but that's not the same thing as analyzing information, right? You're not going to see, a dog, staring up into the sky, contemplating his existence. He can't do that. We can, because that's the way we're designed. We're designed to process information. So we process the information. We come to a decision based on the information. That decision sometimes has many times, that decision based on the information that you have put through the process will produce an emotional response, like the eunuch went on his way rejoicing. Sometimes you have to make a decision based on the facts of the situation, based on the objective truth of the situation, not emotionalism. You have to make a decision that is difficult, causes you a negative emotion, causes you sorrow or anger or fear, right? So yeah, a lot of times there is an emotional response, but the emotional response comes from the decision that has to be made from the information, not the other way around. The emotion doesn't come first. If you're putting the emotion first and not processing information at all, you hear something, right? You have the sensory input, and instead of processing the information to come to a decision, you just have an emotional response to it. And that's how you base your decisions. Well, now everything is emotion. That's why you see so much rage from the people out in the streets, protesting and rioting and looting and burning. And well, what is going on? Well, that's where you get to when, instead of teaching people how to think, instead of teaching people how to process information, you just teach people to react emotionally to everything, to whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is. Don't think about it. Don't think about the information. Don't process the information. Just have an emotional response to it. Just act on your emotions. How does it make you feel? Go with that, right? Well, that's where we've gotten to. That's why we see things the way that they are. And it's, it's concerning. So that's right, Gwendolyn. Appreciate your comment. Eric says, I've always said no reason for a pregnancy in that scenario to reach the point of an abortion. Right. And I think I started to say that when I was talking about that. The actual percentage of abortions that happen for that reason is almost none. Almost of that, nearly 40 million number that I put out there, and that's this year. That that's not from the time abortion started. That's this year. Just this year, almost 40 million abortions. The number of those abortions, percentage-wise, would be well below 0%. It'd be, point some really low number, right? Of how many abortions were actually done, because if it wasn't, the woman would die. But yeah, I agree with you. There's no reason for a pregnancy to get to the point of abortion, even in that scenario. I agree 100%. I'm going to get through these last comments pretty quick, and I did want to play another video clip for you before we go off. So let me go through. David says, just hypothetical with the advances in modern medicine, C-section, and C-sections are performed today. Yeah, that's why that number is so low. That's why that number is it's almost non-existent. So that's why people on the other side of the argument a lot of times have said, okay, we'll give you that. Okay, well, if you'll agree to ban abortions, except in the case of rape, incest, and health of the mother, then okay, we'll give you that. And so now, after giving those concessions, because the thinking was, the actual number out of all abortions that are for one of those three reasons is so small that by giving those three concessions, we would still be saving millions and millions of lives. So, okay, we'll give you those concessions. Even though we don't think abortion should happen at all, we'll give you those concessions in the interest of saving the millions of lives it would save. Okay, so what do? They say, okay, well, health of the mother now includes if she's sad about the fact that she's pregnant. It's causing depression. You don't want her to be depressed, do you? So now that's included in health. So, even with the exception of health of the mother, that is so broad, it can't be there. You can't include that, because when you include an open-ended thing like that, they are going to find ways to broaden it to include anything and everything, which is what they've done. And so that's right. Let's see, where were we? Richard says, Stephen in Acts 7 reminds me of what you're talking about. Yeah, that's, Stephen basically looked at those Jews that were accusing him of blaspheming the law of Moses. And he said, look, you're accusing me of blaspheming the law of Moses. Let me tell you what I know about the law. And he gives the best Old Testament survey. It's an inspired Old Testament survey, right? Doesn't get better than that. So yeah, that's right. He presented facts. That's right. Let's see. See, David says, Stephen in Acts 7 reminds me of what you're talking about, truth versus not listening, then try and stop him. Yeah, that's right. It even says that they stopped their ears, right? Now that's the kind of irrational response to information that we see today, is exactly what you read there in Acts 7, where they don't want to hear it. They stop their ears from hearing the information because they don't want the truth. They don't care. They just want this person that's making them feel bad to go away, even to the point of killing them, right? It happened before. It'll happen again, right? Um, Gwendolyn says, "Thank God for the gospel." Amen, Gwendolyn. 100%. Gwendolyn goes on to say, women can use preventive methods if they don't want to have a baby. Yeah, like not having sex until you're married. That would be the most foolproof preventative a person could. There's only one way to have a baby, and that is to become pregnant. And far as I know, the ways a woman can become pregnant is pretty small, like one, right? Unless she goes through some medical procedure to do it unnaturally. There's only one way to become naturally pregnant. So if you don't want to become pregnant, don't do that thing. Don't do that thing, right? And so, yeah, women can take preventative measures. That's right. The best of those preventative measures would be don't have sex till you're married. Okay, something is wrong with this picture. That is right. 100%. Gwendolyn, you are correct. Well, I have got to go. It is 8:36, and we've been on for about an hour and a half now. So if there's no other comment, I did want to play this other clip. Bear with me. Stay with me for just about another 5-6 minutes, I think, and let me know what you think of this clip. Hang on. Many deny the ability to really know anything. It amazes me where we have come to through the efforts of postmodernism and various philosophies, where we've come to in our world today, where people don't think that there's any such thing as the truth. It's one of the things that it just breaks my heart for our young people. College students, young people coming out of college. And they've come through a college system that has taught them all through their higher education. And it really started in grade school and plays over into higher education. But it really gets ramped up in higher education. And they've been taught all through there that uh, everything is just your own personal experience. There's no such thing as truth. The reason you think something is true and someone else doesn't think that that's true is because of different lived experiences, culture. Your thinking and everything is molded by your culture, by your upbringing, by the information you're fed, and so those things are true for you, but they may not be true for someone else. And so you get into these catchphrases that people say, where they'll talk about your truth. Right? You may have been talking to somebody and they'll say something about your truth or my truth. Well, there, truth doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to you. It's not your truth or my truth. It's the truth. It's the truth, right? There's only one true thing. If we're both talking about the same subject, right? And you understand it one way and I understand it another way, both of those can't be true. One or the other has to be true. One has to be wrong, or either both have to be wrong. But you can't have contradicting views and they both be true. And yet we've come to a time in our society where truth is rejected. The very idea of truth is rejected to the degree that you can't even know the truth about someone's gender. That's how bad it's gotten. You can't even know the truth about someone's gender, right? Gender is fluid, we're told. We have to let people choose their own gender because it is I forget the exact term, a construct of that person's own experience. Well, no, the truth of the matter is that gender is a biological determination. A person is born one of two genders. I read a meme on Facebook. I thought it was pretty funny. It says, isn't it interesting that archaeologists only find male and female remains? They never find any of these other 80 genders that people talk about? Yeah, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? But that's where we've gotten to with our understanding of truth. You can't tell someone that they are a male because they were born a male. They have the genetic makeup of a male, the chromosome count of a male. Have all the parts of a male. They're a male. You can't tell them that. Because now you're trying to impose your truth on them. Well, no, I'm not. I'm saying the truth. It's not my truth or your truth, it's the truth. And so when people disregard truth to the point that you can't even say that gender is binary, that there are two genders, male and female, you can't even say that anymore, well then we've lost all touch with the truth, all concept of the truth. And just me saying this, I don't know, somebody may need to go check the live stream. Because just me saying that is enough for Facebook and Twitter to kick you off of their platform altogether. Just saying that there's male and female, there's nothing in between, there's no other options, it's just male and female. You're either born a male or you're born a female, and that doesn't change. You can have surgery and you can change your physiology. That doesn't change the fact that you're a male or that you're a female. And after the surgery, you're still a male, you're still a female, it's just now you've mutilated yourself. That's the truth. But just saying that truth, because there's been riots on college campuses just from stating that most basic of all biological truth. God created male and female. He created man. Male and female created he them. Genesis 1:26. And there's no in between there. And yet, people reject that most fundamental of truth. When you deny that, you can deny anything. All right. Thanks for watching tonight. Until next week, be sure to subscribe, like the video, share the video on your social media platforms, invite your friends and family to come and participate in the live podcast Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. So until next week, like, subscribe, share, and invite people to our next discussion. Thanks for watching Bible Q&A. Lord willing, I will see you next